Hey friends, welcome back to Books and Data with Lady O. This channel is all about books and data and me sharing some of the recent books that I've read, as well as keeping you all up to date on my journey to completing my Bachelor's of Science in Data Science. And may I say, there are quite a few fun bookish projects for all of my book data nerds out there that we can definitely dive into, get insights from. So it's always fun to share those things with you all. This episode is all about my February recent reads. Let's go ahead and jump right on in. Okay, friends, so sticking with the what did I call this? The command center that I started last month. I really enjoy having this little page here. It's just a nice way for me to keep my thoughts focused and centered throughout the month on kind of what I've done or what I'm working on. And usually, if you've seen any of my past book TBR videos or whatnot, I'll put my definitely want to reads on here. And you'll also see some things kind of creep in because, again, I always kind of like to use what I have at hand. And with that comes if I have a hold on Libby and it pops up as available, I'm definitely going to go ahead and switch my plans so that I can read whatever's available on my Libby card. And then, of course, whatever I may have available in Audible or just hanging out on my shelf. Yes, so that's what's going on. Now, let's take a slight detour, not a detour, but if you all recall my reading goals for the year, I had a few, but one of the main things was I don't want to replace great books with the great book, and that great book is of course God's Word, the guiding light to all of our feet in a crazy, crazy world. However, it does not have to be a crazy world. You can definitely seek solace with God's guidance for sure. And one of the many things or many hats that Lady O's wears is I love being with my kiddos on Sundays and sharing and fellowship with them. And honestly, I would say, I guess the teaching it's mutual. Like out of the mouth of babes is something for real. My kiddos definitely have no filter at Sunday school, and they can keep up with a solid theological conversation, which I absolutely appreciate and love so very much. So with that, this past month in February, we were talking all about how wonderfully God has made us and how uniquely He's given us all that special gift or that special thing that enables us to, follow the command of loving our neighbor and sharing the gospel. And that was one of the key insights. And it was all about learning about yourself so that you can make a difference in this world. And on the side, you can also kind of see my daily reading plan. Sometimes I don't read each and every single one every day. I might group books together or take chunks at a time, and it just kind of depends on the schedule. But I can absolutely say that I do love hearing the word of God in some form or fashion every single day. I need that as a repentant sinner, as a you know, none of us are definitely worthy of the wonderful blessings that God has given, but He gives it to us anyway. So the least we could do is take a moment and listen to His wisdom. Okay. Which, considering it was Black History Month, I thought this may not be a popular opinion, but it doesn't matter because it's the truth. I'm just speaking the truth here. So I found it so fascinating when I was reading through Exodus specifically. So in Exodus, if you all remember, we're coming out of Egypt, and it's now time to pass down the law to Israel, right? That's part of what's happening down in Exodus. Now, one of the, like I said, interesting things that come about, and you see, I do have a couple of Black History themed books that we'll definitely dive into, but just keep this in the back of your mind as we're going through these things. And because that's what I ended up doing. It just kept click, 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 popping back up. It was crazy. Like, I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I'm rambling. Forgive me. Okay. So, Exodus, Old Testament, and we're moving a bit towards chapter 21, right? So, chapter 21, what we got here? Chapter 21 through about 23. We've got a few key things, okay? So, protection from abuse. This talks about that specific chapter. There's a few lines that talked about, there was a protection over the life of servants, and you were to treat them as image bearers of God and preserve their life and treat them with dignity. Now, there was an interesting part that, if a master struck a servant and the servant died, the master would be held accountable and punishment would follow. If the servant survived, the master had to let the servant go free. So just that one, just that law alone, okay? In chapter 21 of Exodus, it was just my mind kept getting blown all month as we were talking about not just Black History Month, because there were also instances of servitude. Of course, we have biblical servitude that was happening. We had indentured servitude that was happening as far as, our folks across the pond. The Irish specifically have a pretty long line of indentured servitude. And even just people of a lower class, it was just so interesting to think about some of those stories as as I progressed through the month through some of my reads. So that was definitely interesting. Now, a couple other things that really stuck out through my reading in Exodus was freedom after service. I don't know why this, you never heard this language moving beyond the first century, which I found so fascinating. So it's like, okay, for a Hebrew servant, you have 6 years going all back to what? What are we going back to? We're going back to creation, right? 6 days, 7th day of rest. Okay, work your 6 years, the seventh year, you're supposed to get released. That was supposed to be a practice that provided a person with a new start. It provided them dignity to be able to now go off, live their own life, and continue to spread that love of God within their other people groups or whatnot. And then, of course, you had the Sabbath. And even on the Sabbath, right? Not just you yourself, but also your household, your property, your livestock, all of the things. Everyone needed that day of rest. And it was purposeful for rejuvenation because, a broken spirit really dries a person up, but a cheerful heart does make us happy. And sometimes that rest and restoration is part of being cheerful and happy for sure. So Exodus really stood out to me this month. Again, this is my third or fourth time reading through the Bible in a year. Um, Minus, I'm not going to fib, minus Psalms and Proverbs. I'm sure I have read through every proverb. Have I done all of them within a year? I don't think so. I should be able to because it's only 31, but hey, just speaking the truth here. I don't know if I've always read through every single proverb every year, and I know I haven't read through every single psalm every year. However, I'm hoping this will be the year where I follow my Bible reading plan through the year strictly. I know I kind of go off the rails when I start taking chunks and just reading books because this is intended to be, read side by side, and there are 95 grace days, so yeah, it's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress, but the overarching message of comparing God's people before and after the cross is very prevalent throughout this specific plan that I'm reading, and again, it was just absolutely enjoyable. So again, keeping the overarching theme of Exodus in mind, let's go ahead and jump into our February reads. So, first up this month started off very strong with this beautiful little book, Blended. Obviously, what caught my attention was the beautiful little girl with her ponytail, the dress with the sneakers, absolutely my style. And this was also a great book, blended, not just blended family, but also about a little mixed girl. And being a little mixed girl myself, I can proudly say that finally I found a little book that I could actually relate to, being that little mixed girl apart that, unfortunately came from a divorced home, but there was just something very comforting and relatable about the book, which overall, overall great 4 stars. Absolutely loved it. So what we have here is our girl Isabella. She's 11, and she's kind of caught in between the world of, her mom and her dad. One is black, one is white, one has a bit more money, one doesn't have as much money. And there is so much tension between the two cultures and the overall expectations on little Isabella, that you can definitely feel that tension all throughout the book. And as I listened and read Isabella's story, one thing that kept popping out was that little inner voice. I love the writing style of the author. She did very well of bringing out Isabella's inner voice and those experiences of, how she was feeling so disconnected from both sides of her family. But then slowly but surely, of course, we see her leaning to one side. Now, I will say that part specifically is kind of what affected my rating. So overall, as I said, the story very relatable. However, I really loved how the author helped Isabella lead into, the black side of her family. But then all throughout the story, there was unfortunately like this clear parallel of how Isabella was struggling with the white side of herself. And it was just never like that, kind of felt like a loose end. And because this is a novel and a middle grade book, I think, again, being a mixed girl, my family did really well at telling me to love and embrace both sides of myself, no matter what. My mom, my dad, they were both very, very supportive, and always had the hard conversation of, hey, this is the way our world is. Not everyone's going to like or understand you just because of who your parents are, but you need to be proud of yourself and love who you are either way, because this is the cards God gave you, and this is how we got to deal with it. Now, other than that small tidbit, honestly, the remainder of the story was absolutely beautiful. I love seeing Isabella and her friendships blossom. I loved seeing the relationship that she had between her brothers. Oh my goodness, absolutely wonderful. And these cute little poems that she's cute. Honestly, these are kind of heavy for a middle grade book, but I think they kind of hit right on the spot, and the main spot being, I'm not what they expect, and I'll never be the same as them. That's something they should know. And that part right there was so prevalent because Isabella, she's just like, I'm just the mixed kid stuck here in the middle between this black world and this white world. And you guys should know that. You should know that I can't be this lane and I can't be this lane because I'm here, because I'm stuck in the middle. And I just really enjoyed reading her little story. And yeah, it'll always keep a beautiful place in my heart. So solid 4-star read. I honestly think that any young middle grade girl can identify with the book in some way, shape, or form. I would say that it's specifically for divorced kids, children that are in divorced families, no matter what your background is. I think this is a great book that kind of would help you work through some of those feelings, at least for parents to be able to have a good conversation. So great job on Blended. Absolutely loved it. And looking forward to reading more from Miss Sharon Draper. Okay, up next, boy oh boy, we have The Slave Dancer, and this is one of my books off of the Newbery Award list for this month. And oh, y'all, I wasn't ready. Holy pooper. Okay, let's see. Let's just unpack this. So, like, right off the bat, like this was like a haunting story, and I don't know if I want to say nightmares, but I just have flashes and images of this poor little boy that's been kidnapped basically and thrown onto this boat to play a flute. So just starting off, we got our main boy Jesse. He obviously comes from a lower income family living off the coast. Where is he from? New Orleans. Okay. So living in New Orleans, right there at a port, right? Port of entry. And man, look here. The main thing that started out was Jesse's mama kept telling him, do not go down and play with at the slave quarters. Do not do it. But what does the boy do? He's just, he's just being a kid, and he doesn't see color. He doesn't see slaves necessarily. All he knows is he's this poor little boy that lives right next to these other poor little kids, and he just wants to go and play his flute or his fife for everybody. That's what he wants to do. He loves to play music. Now, um, what happens? Yeah, Jesse, little boy, he sits there and he gets himself kidnapped. Now, the crazy thing about this kidnapping, like that quote up there was no one to save me. And I didn't even know what I needed to be saved from. Like, he didn't even know what was about to happen to him. This poor boy, he was not ready. And we knew he wasn't ready because, man, the moment he ended up on this ship, he's just trying to be Jesse. He's asking questions. He's a curious kid. And then all of a sudden, boom, bam, slap, all the things. Poor boy just starts getting abused. And my gosh, I bet you what? I bet you he gonna listen to his mama from now on. Now, so what's happening on this poor little ship is this little boy unfortunately realized that he's actually worth less than the cargo, i.e., the slaves that are being transported, right? Because what's going to happen to these poor humans that have been, you know, kidnapped and pushed into slavery from one side of the continent to the other? There's this horrible thing, the name that's called in here, their reference to is black gold. It definitely, I would say this book did not hold back when it comes to the brutality of the transatlantic slave trade. And what I appreciate so much is this different view, like this different point of view, um, not just from the slave's view or from the slavers, the person enslaving the other folks. I appreciated how Paula, the writer, how she's like, I couldn't even begin to put myself in that person's shoes. Speaking of an enslaved person, she's like, I can't even begin to do that. However, here's what I can do, and here's how I can contribute to this all important piece of American history. Black history is American history, guys. Okay, yeah, I said. Now, moving on to that, as this nightmare is unfolding for poor Jesse, his job is to play his fife. He has to play the fife for the slaves to dance. Why do the slaves need to dance? They're pulled up from the cargo every so often because they have to move around, and that cargo hold that they're being held in, it needs to be cleaned out. And while they're cleaning out, he has to play his flute so that they can dance. And, they have to keep their cargo healthy so that they can be sold into a life of servitude. And as we all know how that story goes, unfortunately. So, poor little Jesse, he goes through quite a bit. Now, I will say there was another interesting aspect, which was about the actual transporting and the way that the boat operates. So, what is so fascinating? It was a very fascinating piece of, I guess you could say, I don't know if you want to say history, but this boat had every kind of flag. So basically, as the slavers are going in and around that transatlantic, that loop, depending on where they were, they would put up a certain flag. They're like, oh, okay, we're over in these waters. We need to put up our American flag. Oh, we're over in these waters. We need to put up our French flag. Why? Because that's how they evade getting caught for doing something they're not supposed to be doing, which is human transport during this time. So the ending, it was a little crazy to me, to be quite honest, because I was just like, hold on a minute. You're just going to sit here and kidnap him and he's just going to be gone for a couple months and then, okay, he made it back home. But everything that happened in between, it was a ride. My blood pressure was up and down all throughout, but overall, hats off to Mix Fox. Wonderfully done. Um, some people say this is a little dark for a middle grade book. I don't think so. I think this is a perfect rendition for a middle grader, especially in today's age. I mean, come on, let's just think about the music and the television and things that they watch. So much worse than this book. So, yeah, again, perfectly deserved Newbery Award. Absolutely loved it. Would definitely read more of Miss Paula Fox. And yeah, great read. Let's jump into the next one. All right. This one was a chunker, and I don't even know how, but I completely binged this absolute addictive fantasy adventure. And I believe, yes, we've got 4 stars, and that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Now, this is one of those very random reads, but it was a random read because it became available on my Libby, and I had it on hold, and it was my turn. So, yes, I went ahead and took it. Now, we've got dragons. We had a minor love triangle. We have some childhood trauma. Oh my, the trauma. And of course, we had an evil empress. Like, I'm thinking like Snow White, evil queen vibe type deal. Yeah, we can go there. I mean, it wasn't really that much magical. I would say there was a lot of there's some magic in here, but I would say it's more fantastical than magical. I thought. I didn't think there was too much magic. But anyway, so Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Um, man, why do I forget how to say her name? Shin Ying? I think it's Shin Ying. So Shin Ying is the daughter of the legendary moon goddess. And basically, right off the bat, she is what? She's entering womanhood, basically. But she is forced to flee home, and that is on the moon with her mom, and she's kind of thrown into the celestial realm where there's a lot going on. There's some power struggles. There's a whole bunch of annoying little clicks, little clickety clicks, busybodies, I like to call them. And like there's some deep betrayal and quite a few choices that need to be made. So basically, the moon goddess, she has been exiled from the celestial realm that everyone else lives in, basically. Now, they're all celestial beings, and they are all gonna most likely live forever. I like the world building of this book. Holy poop, it was great. Very detailed, enjoyed that whole journey. So, basically, what's going on with our main girl is she kind of grew up in well, she did. She grew up in isolation on the moon, and she actually is kind of not supposed to be here. So nobody knows that she's alive. Nobody knows that she's the daughter of the moon goddess. And her father, he's dead. Not he's no longer with us. That's part of the story. Okay, don't want to give away any spoilers here, but basically she never knew much of a human, like any kind of human connection beyond her mom, and then I guess we would say the nanny. We'll call her the nanny. And she has a lot of just this pent up longing to figure out where she's supposed to fit in life. She wants to, make her own destiny, but her main goal is she wants to save her mom. Because her mom has been exiled for a long time, and she wants to try to do the best she can to save her mom. So she has to get thrown out of the Moon Kingdom for certain reasons. She has to flee. She has to go away. And from that, this hot mess ensues, and it's basically like freaking Cinderella, Mulan. What else can we go here? It's basically like that hidden identity trope, and then kind of enemies to lovers because of course there's a prince involved. So, like I said, Cinderella a bit, and she ends up going to the Celestial Castle. She ends up there, which is also part of the story that I don't want to tell because I think it's a spoiler because I thought it was like mwah, chef kiss moment. So you just have to read it and find out how she ended up being at this kingdom, and then all of a sudden she ends up becoming the study buddy to the prince. And from there, we go on a series of adventures. They learn together, they grow together, and all of a sudden, we see our main girl blossom into this mighty warrior where she goes on more adventures, more campaigns, and that little love triangle may come in because, that prince may have let her go, and then she also knew that she was in love, but no, because she got her own plans and she couldn't get tied down. So she had to go off on her own Mulan adventure and become this great and mighty warrior. And what a ride this book was. I can't tell anymore because I'm afraid it would spoil, but I will have my full reviews that I have out on Goodreads link below if you want to read more about it. But again, solid 4 stars. Absolutely loved it. I think I'm going to pick up the second one. I just don't know when because, again, these were some trunkers, and I'll probably put it on hold and see when I can get it. Let's pop over to the next. Oh my goodness, guys. I finally got it. I finally started the Timeless series, and yes, yes, yes. Solid 5 star read, my first 5 star of the month, and boy, was I just beyond happy. So, When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer. This is a Christian historical fiction, and it comes with some plenty. It's got the whole duplicate timeline trope going on, and it basically follows Miss Livy. She lives 2 different timelines. One, she's in 1774 in Williamsburg, colonial Williamsburg, and then the other, she's kind of in the Gilded Age in 1914 in New York. And on her 21st birthday, she needs to choose where she's going to be. And holy poop, like, my brain was just firing off the whole time. Sometimes I have a really hard time following these like duplicate timelines, and I need to like read the physical book plus listen to it. Like I need to do both or I will not follow. That was not the case with When the Day Comes. So this one actually popped up available on Audible for free. Well, included with my Audible Plus. So I was like, yes, I need to grab this one before it goes away. Because, sometimes they go away after so long. So I hurried up and grabbed this one very quickly, and so excited I did and to continue on to the series. So basically the novel, it has a lot. I love all the historical details and themes. So, we've got, again, both that Gilded Age and the colonial age. I love all things colonial timeline. Um, couldn't live there because, things were stinky, and I just don't think I would fit in that timeline, me personally. but I do love a good historical fiction in any shape or form. So both timelines I thought were fun. Um, Now, I will say this book was absolutely filled with faith. I absolutely loved how Libby's mom, she kept telling her, it is not your job to try and change time. You cannot change history, and you cannot use your knowledge of either time period to try to affect an outcome. And this poor woman, she was just struggling so much. She had so many hard decisions to make. It's just like during the colonial period, she was running a printing press with her mom after her dad passed away. In the Gilded Age, she lived this very blessed life, I guess you would say, a more prominent family, but she definitely had an evil mom. Oh my goodness, that woman she was evil. She was a good one you would love to hate. So that was definitely a standout. Now, the romance. I was absolutely swooning the whole time because it's so cute. It was obviously the book is squeaky clean, but it's just like these small little things like, oh, I touched my hand, and oh, I decided to put my hair down, and oh my goodness, just woo, woo, woo. I was just swooning the entire time and this is with Henry, who turns out to be from the colonial time period, and he's actually in the Sons of Liberty. And a lot of interesting things pop up with Henry. Like there was tension the entire time. Oh my goodness, my blood pressure, guys. I'm just telling you now. Back in her 1914 timeline, again, she had an evil. Her mom in that timeline was just awful, and she kept, saying like she does not know how to love. She doesn't have a loving bone in her body. She just wants to climb the social ladder, and she's going to use her daughter to do it, which is horrible because, of course, she ends up getting hoodwinked into this horrible marriage. And that man, he was just a piece of work. I don't know who damaged him, but Lord help her. It was just a hot mess. And just the writing style, the twist and the turns. This was a constant. I believe, oh my goodness. I read this in like 2 days. I just gobble, gobble, gobble. I ate it up. I absolutely loved it. So if you're ever looking for a dual timeline book to start with, if that's not a trope that you're used to working with, or if it's something you want to read but it confuses you, I would say start with this one. Like the Timeless series would be a great one to start with. I love me a good Jamie Jo Wright book, but I'm already used to her writing style, so it doesn't bother me. But if I had to choose where to start diving into dual timelines, I would start with this Timeless series and then jump over into a more advanced back and forth that you see with the Jamie Jo. But 100% recommend. Loved it. We are going to keep this 5-star train going with none other than Lady of Disguise by Melanie Dickerson. Oh, this was just so cute. Okay, so I would say if you're looking to ever get into fairy tale retellings, or maybe that medieval time period, or just a good palate cleanser, I would absolutely recommend Lady of Disguise, or even, I guess, Melanie Dickerson in general. I can't wait to read the rest of her fairy tale retellings. Oh my goodness. So, this one came about for Once Upon a February readathon, and I just had so much fun filling out this little board. I don't think there were any police, but I was able to find this book fit all of the prompts. So, this was my first Melanie Dickerson book. I absolutely loved it. And the wonderful Miss Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails, I've been following her for a couple years now, and I just absolutely have always adored um, her book recommendations. Never stood me wrong yet. I believe we pretty much have a very similar reading style, which is fun. But as for this book, it was just so great. All right, so we had, something that has an animal. There's a scene through this book where this darn donkey shows up, and that donkey, he's a donkey, but the guy who riding him is even more of a donkey, if you know what I mean. So there was that aspect of the book, which is interesting. The quest. So the main quest is that this is, as you can see, it's a basically a Jack in the Beanstalk retelling, but kind of reversed. And I just love the quest. So we have main girl, Louisa. She has one goal right now, and that is to find the legendary Viking treasure that her dad always told her about, because she needs to save herself and her younger sister from her greedy uncle and their bystander of an auntie that is trying to just sell them off. My gosh, these babies. They're babies and they're just trying to sell them off. But anyways, in true fairy tale heroine like type fashion, nothing goes as planned for poor little Louisa. However, there's this she decides to disguise herself as Jack. Well, as our Jack, okay? And then she goes out on the journey. But then of course, we're back in medieval times, so we gotta have our knight in shining armor, and that is Sir Charles. Like, just little birdies just flew everywhere, and he's just, so noble, and he's heartbroken because he's gullible, but he's just the sweetest little thing ever. So, he is in search of a worthy quest, and unfortunately for Louisa, her little disguise ain't fooling nobody. And he was just so sweet and so chivalrous, and he's decided to go along the journey with her to find the Viking treasure. Now, I would say this had a few notes of kind of like a Pilgrim's Progress, because there were just each little obstacle or roadblock or little mini adventure within the adventure that they had along the way. There was just always this decision that you had to make, and you had to choose, and they had to choose, are you going to take the right path or the wrong path? Are you going to stay on that narrow road, or are we going to go wide? Like, which way we going? So there was some pretty good parts as far as choosing what's right and what's wrong. And then Louisa, she went in on some of these folks that were trying to judge her. Okay, I would just say that right now. She's like, I may be a girl, but I'm going on this quest, and I'm going to save my sister, and you're not going to tell me nothing. And I absolutely loved it. Now we're going to fast forward just a little bit, and all I can say is the middle was a little slow moving, and my original rating for this was more of like a 3.5. However, when we meet our gentle giant, oh my goodness, guys. Like the moment where the Jack and the Beanstalk type thing, where we see the giant, when that whole aspect came to the forefront, oh my gosh, like it ultimately turned into a 5 star, and you just have to read it, see it to believe it, how beautiful the interaction was between Louisa, Sir Charles, and the giant. That moment in this book is exactly what it needed, and the story just propelled from there. And I will have to leave it at that, because I'll get excited and give it all away. But wonderful, 5 stars, full of faith, full of joy, and plenty of giddy moments. Absolutely recommend. Hallmark me Rambo. That's all I gotta say. I'm trying so hard not to scream because everybody in my house is asleep. Oh my goodness. Loyally Luke. I love me some Pepper Basham. I am a forever fan. I I'm already ready to reread this one. I loved it so much. Okay. Absolutely just swoon, Hallmark chimes, all the things. This is like the best book to read in February, the month of love, and I was just melting the entire time. Absolutely clean, great. I would say I would go ahead and put it as a Christian fiction, but basically it's like the prodigal son meets Cinderella, but we kind of going to flip flop it a little bit. So we've got our main guy, Luke, who's this broad shoulder flannel wearing flannel. He loved him some flannel. Okay. And he's a contractor. And he is going to Skamar, where he's going to be renovating a castle for orphans. Barf. Just bring on the barf. Like, this whole book is just a barf. I just loved it so much. Oh my goodness. And then, of course, guess who's running the project? Yeah, we've got the princess, okay? But it's a hidden identity thing, so Luke doesn't know that she's the princess. And of course, their meeting story is absolutely hilarious. Like, the way that these two initially meet, just sent me down on the floor. It was great. So Luke, he's like, grumpy, and the princess, she's elegant now. Didn't used to be, but now she is. And then there's all kind of sparks flying. You got plenty of banter. And then the forced proximity trope, because like I said, their meeting story is absolutely hilarious. But once they're forced to work together on this project, it just keeps going, and then it gets better. So there's, 100-year-old journal that we're going to find. So some secrets are happening. And then, of course, Luke, would it be Luke without his meddling sisters to egg all this along? Their commentary across the book was hilarious. And like I said, Hallmark me Rambo. Just, if you know, good for you. You know what I'm talking about. And then once we got to the ending, oh, barf. Like I said, I was just melting. I cried. I laughed. But beyond the romance, there was plenty of faith. No matter how far we fall, like, God's grace is always there. That was a central part of the story. And it just kept, it was that beautiful reminder, especially as we're coming into spring, the time of renewal. Redemption is always available for everyone. So I absolutely love that. Now, yeah, no, I'm just okay. I'm done. Yeah, that's it. That was my notes. I have plenty of more notes. Oh my goodness. I think I probably had over 50 highlights in this book. It was great, as I said. But honestly, it's just pure joy. Book 4, must read. You will love it. Yeah. Up next, we have this cute little picture book, and that is Magnolia Flower. And Magnolia Flower, it was just a heartfelt, cute little read. So one of my reading goals this year was to read more picture books. I do have a little. My beautiful, my handsome little 3-year-old, Mr. Andre. I'm trying to get all my children to read, but for picture books, that is part of the goal. Why I want to read more picture books is so I can read with him. Now, this one wasn't necessarily for him per se. He didn't read this one with me. We read Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. It counts. But anyways, back to Magnolia. So I found this one while we were at the library, and I just saw the cover. I loved her little pigtails. I wear pigtails. And honestly, the cover it caught my eye, and I was like, this looks like a cute picture, but let's read it. So basically, I just love that quote. So I always felt the river knew all about you and me. And the main premise I believe of this book is that, it's through the eyes of a brook and a river. And, the brook flows into the river, and then the river flows into the sea, and it's just this continual cycle of moving water. Just that imagery was so beautiful. Now, basically, it just says, time continues moving forward, and the stories that we share with each other and the life that is lived on land is all connected to nature in that way. We see the way that the world has changed as time has progressed. We can see the way that the brook has grown or gotten smaller, or, how the overall landscape has changed, but the stories of that land they're still there. You can still literally see through how the times have progressed. It was a beautiful story to read. This is a story of another mixed girl, and we have a black man and a she was Cherokee. Yes, and a Cherokee woman. And so it has Bentley, an escaped slave married to Swift Deer, a Cherokee woman who had fled her own trail of tears. That was just so beautiful to me. Now, basically, what happens with Magnolia is she grows up on this kind of free land. Her dad is an escaped slave, and her mom is a displaced Cherokee, and then together they form this beautiful community and they make something new. And then, of course, Magnolia falls in love, and then the brook and the river are alongside to continue telling us the story. Absolutely beautiful little picture book. I will say um, there was something, there was just something about it that I was just like, I don't know if this book was necessarily intended for littles. I would go, this was maybe a middle grade picture book. I would say middle grade is okay because there are a few things in here. One thing that irritated me was Magnolia when she gets older and falls in love. She runs off with the boyfriend or her love, and then they come back all beautiful and old. And you see them there, they're singing and making their melodies together. But the thing was, like, we never saw any restoration between mom and dad. That bothered me because I'm just like, really? Like, your poor family is already torn apart because dad's a runaway slave, mom is a displaced Cherokee. We already have a torn apart family by that deep, dark history. You don't need to continue the cycle. And of course, you got the river and the brook over here snitching on you. But yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that's the only thing that really affected my rating as far as like it being a 3. Like if this was tailored towards like a middle school, or I would say, older people, because I don't know if you see who wrote the book, but that's Loveless Wise and Loveless Rise. If you don't know who that is, wrote Our Eyes Were Watching God. Absolutely beautiful story. There's a movie about it too that Oprah put out. That was pretty good. That was a while ago, but anyways, if you know that story, then you know how deep she can get. Okay, so but Magnolia Flower, absolutely beautiful. I love it. I want to go get a copy now because the artwork is just absolutely stunning as well. So now let's continue moving along. And moving right along to the Princess Academy. This was one of those, again, just random little reads that I had. I don't really know how this one. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. So this one came up because I was planning middle grade March a little early. And this was a pretty short read. So I was just like, it has the flowers on the cover. That's one of the prompts for middle grade March. And I really didn't feel like waiting. So I just went ahead and read it. That's how that came up. So, anyways, here we go. This one, The Princess Academy, it is a series, so it's a cute little series, and we're following Mary, and she's a girl that lives in the mountains. Now, I would say that this read definitely gave me initially starting off, you get like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs vibe because they sing as they're going to the quarry. So that was so cute. Now, she lives in this mining village. However, she is unable to work in the mines because she's so tiny. And aside from helping out at home, she also does, she works out in the pastures with the livestock, and she's kind of like this little shepherdess. And then she has her friend, Peter, who keeps her, or Petter, Peter, Petter, one of the little boy, he keeps her company. But other than that, she pretty much stays to herself. So the story kind of like is catapulted all of a sudden when the kingdom declares that the princess future bride is going to come from her little mountain town. Now, Mount Eskel, you know, it's a mountain town, it's a mining town. So these girls, they're like rah rah, and they're ready to go. They're hardworking folk, and of course, what do we gotta do? We gotta get to the Princess Academy. We gotta go get primed and primed, and they're gonna spend an entire year at Princess Academy. Okay, so in great princess style fashion, clicks happen. The catty little, all the little girl things go on in between there. But one key thing that stood out about this cute little book was everyone's connection to this mountain and this mountain type language that they have amongst each other. That really stood out. But the other part is we see how our main girl, she really powers through despite being, picked on and teased because she was that weird little girl that couldn't do any mining work. And then on top of that, come to find out, all of that teasing and that isolation that became a result of the teasing that she faced actually drove her to do something rather remarkable for her town. I'll just say she became quite the financier. We can say that. She became basically like the town's financial advisor in a way. Absolutely loved it. Thought that aspect was really cute. The prince and the academy aspect. The academy aspect was definitely there. I will say I was really irritated with the ending of this book. You should try to read it still. It was a good, solid read. I thought it was okay, but the ending irritated me. I think I might read the next book in the series just because I want to see more of what happens. The the whole prince thing, that wasn't what I was here for. Not for this. I was here for that academy aspect, and then seeing how this little town grew as a result of this young girl paying attention to those studies and taking advantage of the resources that she was given in this really awkward situation of being catapulted into a princess academy. So, yeah, great read overall. I liked it. I would say pretty much any gal who enjoys a good gal read, this would go. Okay, and there's plenty of adventure. Yes. All right. Last but not least, we have a newfound fave that I was pleasantly surprised with, the Indigo Girl. I am resolved to make a good mistress to my servants, to make their lives as comfortable as I can. So help me, oh my God, amen. Amen. All right, now this girl right here, our main girl, Liza, she's a young woman. Um, she is totally full of faith and just loves the Lord, and you can see it. Now, she is coming from the island of Barbados. I don't know what it is about these island story girls coming up. What am I thinking? I'm thinking of something. Hold on. Um, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. Yep. So, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. If anybody remembers that story, same thing. Girl comes over from an island, and she's so used to being friendly with the servants, with the help, what the slaves. She just doesn't fit quite into this new Southern colonial style life. But anyways, here we go. So Eliza, she refuses to be an airhead, and I absolutely was here for it the entire time. She's like, I am not some debutante that you can just put a pretty dress on and tell me to go off and get married. That's not how I'm rolling, okay? I am my daddy, and my daddy gave me the best education money could buy, and I'll be darned if she said I'm gonna use it, and that's she wasn't playing. Okay, so here's what's going on. um Eliza and her family ends up moving to South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, okay? And they buy up a few plantations. Dad has to go and get back to the Indies where he's doing his business. Now, brother, who is technically the heir, right? Because he's a boy. Anyways, brother is he's not old enough to take over yet. So, what does dad do? Liza, I'm gonna need you to take care of things while I'm gone because her mama's a crybaby, and she's a devious, divisive little thing, like a snake. Like you got to watch her. That woman's messed up. But anyways, back to our girl Eliza. So Eliza, she is just a force. Okay. Now they kept underestimating her. Like the overseers of the plantation that they took over, you could tell that guy was a piece of work and he was a nasty thing. Poor Eliza. She just saw how he was taking advantage of the slaves, and we saw a quite a way too many little mulatto babies running around. Okay, where'd all these mulatto babies come from? Just saying. Anyways, that was interesting all in itself. Now, next, the main thing we jumped into is Eliza and her family. They also have their neighbors, and one of the neighbors, oh, what was his name? Mm, I don't remember his name, but okay. There was basically it was their neighbor, and their neighbor, his wife, like she was sickly and she was getting ready. She's getting ready to pass away. You can tell she's just extra sickly. You could tell that all throughout the story. But Eliza and her neighbor, like they make a pretty close connection. Things start happening. There is no adultery in this story. This is a completely clean story, just so we're clear. Okay, glad I got that out of the way. But say no more. The ending is bomb. There's all kinds of drama that ensues because guess what? Eliza gets caught one too many times out there in the fields. She is out there in the fields working with these people. She is going to bring Indigo to the Americas. So help her God. Okay. And I just love how Indigo plays such a key role. Like you learn so much about the process of making it, how hard it is, and I like that it definitely the way Natasha, the author, really stuck to the story of it is the Africans. It was their, this is their, or the people in the Indies, the slaves in the Indies. This was their culture, and they're the ones who hold the keys to knowing how to process and make this indigo dye. Stuck really true to that. I loved it. Love that this was based on a true story. I had no idea um, that this was like real historical fiction. So absolutely loved it. If you are looking for what in the month of March, you're looking for something for Women's History Month, there you go. I would say go ahead and take on Miss Eliza Pinicky because she is an exceptional woman. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. If you made it to the end, I know this was a long one, but I'm still very new at the booktube YouTube world, and I'm still trying to find my feet. I get so excited about some of these books that I read, and I just want to share with the world all of the fun things. But please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, stick around. Feel free to jump around in all my videos. I love to share about all the recent books that I've read. I love to share my data projects I'm working on for school. And again, this channel is just all about sharing the life, sharing journey, and hopefully providing some good book recommendations along the way. And of course, the love of God. So, you all have a blessed day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.